Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Maz and today I'm in Gloucester. And in today's video I'll be trying out this T32. A huge thank you to Iqbal for lending me his car, and if you are a Nissan owner and you would like a car featured on the channel, feel free to reach out. A quick overview: the Nissan X-Trail was Nissan's mid-size SUV, or C-segment / D-segment car as we say here in Europe, replacing the T32 and Racine, and in North America this car was known as the Nissan Rogue, with the Qashqai being badged as the Rogue Sport. There have been 4 generations of the X-Trail. The first generation known as the T30, the second one known as the T31, the third generation, which this one is, the T32, and then after that, the T33. And this particular car is a 7-seater. 5-seaters were also available, but in the case of the 7-seater, it actually replaced the Qashqai Plus 2. So the original Qashqai had a 5-seater as well as a 7-seater, with the second generation car being 5-seater only, and this taking over the Plus 2's spot. The first and second generation X-Trail were known for having very boxy looking design, but we're going to gloss over that and we're going to focus on this, the T32, which ditched some of that boxy angular design, and in its place came soft curvier lines, less utilitarian and more suburban runabout. It first came into production in 2013 and was technically in production up until 2021, but other international variants still carried on, despite Nissan replacing it in 2021. This is a 21 plate, meaning it is the final year for the T32. Because Renault and Nissan are one alliance, this car uses the CMF CD platform, and that platform is shared with the smaller Qashqai and its sister car, the Renault Koleos. And 3-row SUVs are quite competitive here in the UK, so some of its rivals include the Volkswagen Tiguan, the Skoda Kodiaq, the Hyundai Santa Fe, and the Kia Sorento. The T32 came in 4 core trim levels, including the Vizier, the Ascenta, the N-Connector, or later the N-Tech, and the top-of-the-range Tecna model. The T32 was available with all kinds of engines, including a 1.3 petrol, a 1.6 petrol, 2-litre petrol, a hybrid, diesels, but this particular car is a 1.3, and the X-Trail could be had with either a 6-speed manual, a 7-speed DCT, or Nissan's infamous eCVT. This one has the DCT. And here are the specs for this particular car. So here is the front of the Nissan X-Trail, and here is the key fob. This is the key fob that Nissan used throughout this period, ranging all the way from this X-Trail to the Nissan GT-R to various Infinitis. And here is what the front of the car looks like. This is a facelift, so the bumpers are slightly different, and you get the revised chevron-like DRLs, as well as the wraparound U-shaped chrome grille trim as seen on other Nissans. And this car has this particular car has the sensors housed behind the badge. The bonnet is somewhat clamshelled. You get a crease here and a crease there. And unlike the Duke that I filmed, this car has a VIN that starts with J, meaning it was built in Japan. And this car only has standard halogen lights. Coming around, this car is black on black. Here's what the front wheels look like. They are 18-inch wheels, which would look normal in any other Nissan, but because this is an X-Trail, they do look kind of small. But again, they do add to the rugged off-road look, especially with the plastic cladding on the wheel arch. These mirrors look absolutely massive. Whilst they'll give you better rearward visibility, they can compromise front 3/4 visibility, and you got a camera on there. The door handles and the window surrounds are in chrome. Here's what the side profile looks like. Compared to a Qashqai, it does look kind of stretched, because in essence the 7-seater version does replace the Qashqai Plus 2, and it does look very rugged and off-road like, despite being based on the same platform as the smaller Qashqai and its sister car, the Renault Koleos. Here's what the back wheel looks like, and maybe it's just me, but I do like how this line and this line are almost parallel, similar to what you get in a 5-door Golf. And of course you have that little lip spoiler on the back and that shark fin. Coming to the back, here's what the back of the Extra looks like. I do think this looks a lot better than the Qashqai, and once again it does have a very rugged look to it. This has an electronic tailgate, so press the button to open. And here is the cargo area. Right now it's in 5-seat mode. You do get a lot of cargo space. Here's how much space you get. That's the rear parcel shelf, and it can be mounted either onto here or onto there. This particular car has a rubber mat, and underneath is a very small section for underfloor storage. And to close the tailgate, you simply press on this button here. Coming to the back, or should that be the middle, because this particular car is a 3-row seat. Because this particular model has 3 rows. Right now the right hand seat is in its normal position and the other side are upright. The benefit of that is that it extends rear cargo space. If I were to pull on this center armrest, hard to do with one hand, but pull and push, 2 cup holders in the middle. Here's what the door looks like. So plastic on top, nice leather on the center, electronic window, chrome door releaser, and carbon look-alike veneer, and a space there for a bottle. Mid-spec, so no Bose sound system. Sat in the middle row now. Headroom is very good. Knee room is also very good. Foot room, I can almost lock my knees. That is in my driving position, and I did have the seat lowered, but yet I can still stretch that far. You do get 2 center air vents, a USB Type A and a USB Type C. I have a feeling that's facelift specific. Door pockets on both front seats, and if you want, if you pull this tab here, you can fold the seat to gain access to the back seats once they are up. And now that I mentioned it, it's time for me to try out the very back seats of the car. Unfortunately, the parcel shelf and the rubber mat had to be taken out, and to get the rear seats you simply pull on these tabs here. And they're up, and you do get proper 3-point seat belts. To access them, you move this forward and pull on this lever here to move them as far forward as possible. Getting in. And now I'm in the very back, and headroom is still very good. Visibility is very compromised due to this massive C and D pillar. Seat belts are proper at least. You do get 2 cup holders. That's for the parcel shelf when the seats are down. And if I pull on the other ones, there's the other seat. And yes, they have headrests as well. Bizarrely, the other side does not have cup holders, but instead this tiny cubby. But otherwise, not at all recommended for adults, and technically not recommended for anyone at all, because you're basically right up against the tailgate. In other words, you're sat in the crumple zone. And to put them back into their place, simply pull on the tabs and push. Push. There we go. hard to do with one hand. And that's the only bit of underfloor storage you have. Coming to the driver's door now. Things do look slightly better here. You get X-Trail kick plates. Once again, the plastic and soft leather combination is still here. Same with the chrome door releaser. And this carbon effect trim. This one only has 2 pedals. No floor mats in this particular car. And it has cloth seats. Now coming inside, the interior is a bit of a mixed bag. Let me show you. So here is my point of view. Here's the steering wheel. Looks exactly like the one in the Duke, but leather. This one even has voice control, but no radar guided cruise control. Left spoke is the same as the Duke. Over here you've got very self-explanatory you have very self-explanatory buttons. So tailgate, lane keeping assist, stability control, illumination for your dials, auto stop start, eco mode, and that's a blank, presumably for a heated steering wheel. What is unusual is this, the power door button. Technically it's not a power door button, but rather for the tailgate. So when it's on, it opens electronically. When it's off, you open it manually. Trim specific perhaps, but this car has carbon look-alike interior veneers. Same on the passenger door. But what I do like in this car, and very un-Japanese in a good way, are these chrome door releases. And there's normally a door lock mechanism here, but luckily they didn't do that. Same with the Duke. And instead, the door locks are here, though they do sound very plasticky. Just like the Duke, 4 window switches, but only the driver's is automatic, so 1 click for this one, and 2 clicks for this. Here's the center console, 2 cup holders. I'm guessing this is a blanking piece for higher trims, because that usually means close the vents and open the vents, but there's nothing there, and I cannot remove this center section. Actually, I managed to open it myself. You have to pull from the bottom, like so. Nothing much to report here. Unless this is closed mode, and this is ventilated mode, since there's an arrow here. Let me know in the comments if that is the case. That, I think, is there for the keys, so, like so. The center armrest I like, and is in a very nice soft material. Open it, and you have a very cavernous center console cubby, with a smaller section here, and a 12-volt socket. This one is a 7-speed DCT. There is also an ECVT, as well as a 6-speed manual. What I don't like in this car is this black piano finish. It's all over here, and they are very easy to scratch. And when they're dusty, the dust particles stand out like a sore thumb. Also, CD player in a 2021 car. Air vents, I like how they are stacked above the infotainment screen. They sort of have this, they sort of complement the tapered effect for the center stack. This particular car has a start button, but that's what the blanking looks like on where the normal key barrel would have been. And of course, your usual Nissan indicator and wiper stalks. I've mentioned there's leather here, but very generously, there's also leather here, and it is very soft. Otherwise, that's plastic, but very soft touch, and even here is soft touch, and it's only the glove box door that's a bit plasticky. Glove box itself is damped, but it sort of drops, and then it slowly completes its opening. The size of the glove box is okay, but considering how big and chunky the dashboard is, I would have expected it to be bigger. That looks like it would have been a pad for a mobile phone, but even in 2013 that's too small. Parking brake is all the way here, same with auto hold, even though naturally it would have been more here somewhere. Again, 12-volt socket, aux and USB. Here's what the seats look like. They're not very bolstered, even though this seat is cloth and is perfectly acceptable in a Nissan. It does heavily contrast to this leather center armrest here and on the armrests of the doors. We'll get back to that later, but even though the seats are black, the headlining is cream, which makes the car feel airy. Sun visors are absolutely massive, and the driver's one has this notepad here, and the driver's side one has this strap here for notes. You got somewhere to store sunglasses. That's for both the sunshade and the sunroof, and to tilt you just press the button like so. And this sunroof is very panoramic. It extends to the middle row, but not to the back. The bezel on the interior mirror does feel like it's made of cheap plastic, and when I apply pressure, it does creak a lot. Turn on the ignition. And this is the infotainment system, the N-Connect. And again, it is just like the infotainment screen as seen on the Juke. And the controls are pretty much the same, and you have some shortcut buttons available. Look how pixelated that reversing camera is. Beneath that is your HVAC. Luckily they are separate, and you do get dual zone climate control. The temperature is adjusted by these two dials, but the fan speed with these buttons here. And I've noticed these cutouts here. I'm guessing these are for heated seats. I was correct. Anything in here? No. And here are the dials. And here is the instrument cluster. Just like the Juke, it has these very nice, clear, round dials for your speedo, revs, temperature and fuel. And just like the Juke, you control the screen with this D-pad here. So compass, traffic sign, audio, driving aids, pressures and any warnings. Your settings, your speed, your fuel economy, and back to compass. And regards to settings, once again, they're just your simple ones, so driver assistance, clock, display, vehicle settings, maintenance, alert, tire pressures, units, language, and factory resets. Once again, this is not my car, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So that's the exterior and interior done now, so let's see what this car is like to drive. So, foot on the brake, press the start, needle sweep, seatbelt on, window a little bit down, only the driver's window is automatic. Interestingly, there's a soft limiter on this car. Normally soft limiters are at 4,000 RPM, but on this it's at 2,750. So window back up, into drive. Window's gone a bit smeary with all the water, and off we go. So this is a 2-pedal car. You could either have an ECVT or a DCT. this car has the DCT, and steering is a lot lighter in this car than in the Duke. I'm only going to be comparing it to the Duke because I've not really driven this category of car a lot. The only other 7-seater I once driven is the Discovery Sport from 2019. The leather steering wheel does feel nice, but this one does need a clean. It's all shiny. And brakes are a bit grabby. And one thing I found out is the releaser for the gear selector is spring-loaded. And it sounds like there's a ball bearing inside. And I've mentioned this as a DCT, so when I put my foot down from standstill, it sort of takes a moment to react, and then it kicks in. So it doesn't rev in a very linear way, it sort of goes slowly, and then it kicks in, kind of like a 1980s turbo car. But that's just the DCT sort of engaging. So it's not at all smooth, and on stop-start, I am very certain this will be very lurchy. It certainly is. And I'm not even driving in sport mode, it's just normal drive. Not that this car has a dynamic mode. Visibility, rear 3/4 is good, especially with those massive rear windows. Back window, view outside is somewhat limited by the massive headrests on the outer middle row seats. Luckily, the central one is small and integrated into the backrest. Turning right. Again, light steering is good for city maneuverability, but because I'm not used to light steering, I feel like the car is going to tip at some point due to its, because it has lots of body roll. Into Barton Street now. The ride is somewhat crashy for something that has a lot of ground clearance, and I can hear the sound coming through. The Duke was definitely less crashy than this, and a lot more insulated. Here comes a speed bump. Didn't necessarily feel it, but I can definitely hear it, especially from the back. And due to how lurchy this DCT feels, I do think I'd rather be in a manual X-Trail. That's my foot down, and I go from nothing to being pushed into my seat in a matter of milliseconds. A traditional torque converter would have been a lot more appropriate for this category of car, in the case of having only 2 pedals. The pedal spacing is actually better in this X-Trail than in the Duke. In the Duke, I complained that the accelerator pedal was too far from the brake, making it tricky to heel toe. But of course the one I'm in is a DCT, so I have no clutch pedal, despite the gearbox having 2 clutches. Unfortunately, the car feels very compromised driving here in Barton Street. The suspension is far too crashy for these undulations and speed bumps. And due to the size of the car, maneuverability does feel a bit tricky, especially with these massive door mirrors. They can cause a bit of a blind spot when looking this way, especially that way. Leaving Barton Street now and into Eastgate Street. Normally I like having light steering in city driving, as they are more effortless to maneuver, but in this car there's so much dead zone that I can't really feel where the front of the car is. So that's me going forward. Having a dead zone in the middle is good for motorway driving, but it does feel like a mismatch with this very light steering. It almost feels like I'm driving something utilitarian, like a pickup truck, even though this car shares the same platform as the Renault Koleos and the smaller Nissan Qashqai. So, city driving in a T32 X-Trail is a bit of a mixed bag. Okay, sharp left-hander. I'm not looking forward to this. And turn. Yep, I was right on the bolster. So yes, this seat could do with a lot more bolstering. And I thought this would have had more bolstering, considering this is the sportier appearance pack with all these fake carbon trims all over it. That being said, only one last thing to check. See what it's like on the open road. Even though the Duke has a D mode, this one doesn't. So just leave it as is. Okay, on the dual carriageway now, but currently in the 50. Unsurprisingly, being a high riding car, this car is not very agile on roundabouts. But being a 7-speeder, it does have a lot of gears to go through. Okay, getting onto the national speed limiter now. This X-Trail does feel like it's riding higher than most other crossovers as well. And traffic in the way. Okay, there's an open window. 3, 2, 1, and foot down. Kick down is very good. And it does accelerate at the top end. But due to the nature of this category of car, it doesn't feel dynamic at all. Here I am at another roundabout. I'm having to brake a lot here. Very little communicative steering. Again, this is not what this car is made to do. But if you are living in Gloucester, and you'd use the dual carriageways a lot, this can be a bit of a disadvantage. And there's 70. Put it at its highest gear. 7. So at 70, this car revs to about 2,200 RPM. That's actually very good. Lane closure. So into this lane now. So on long motorway journeys, at least this car does not scream at a high RPM. Let's do a U-turn at that roundabout and see what it's like in manual mode. Luckily, this car has forward collision warning. There seems to be a severe amount of traffic on this road. Catch you on the other side. Quick correction, putting the gear selector into manual mode presets it into sport. So we're going to see what it's like in sport mode before manual, and just like any other sport mode, it holds the gears for longer. So let's see if that changes how this car performs dynamically. So on the roundabout, rejoining the carriageway, and yes, it does. Acceleration is way more dramatic. But still, I wouldn't want to drive this car spiritedly on twistier roads. So, manual mode, let's see what's manual mode like. So, plus and minus are the wrong way around. So, plus is forwards and minus is backwards. So, shift down and foot down. So after 5,000 RPM, the revs do start to climb reluctantly. There is a noticeable delay when changing gears. I think there's like a second after I select it. I'm at a standstill now, so put this into manual mode. Traction control was fighting then, and this car did have a lot of torque steer. For those who don't know, torque steer is when the steering wheel sort of pulls to one side in powerful front wheel drive cars. As far as gear changing goes, there's a noticeable delay when selecting gear, so probably about just under a second, which for a DCT isn't exactly ideal. I think I've driven torque converters that change quicker. That's to tell me I can't shift any lower, and yes, it still feels weird having to do it that way round, forwards for plus and backwards for minus. So yeah, torque steer in a 1.3, that's probably the biggest highlight of this review. So let's head back to the car park and finalize this video. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me try out this Nissan X-Trail. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to stay up to speed, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.